Hey yo, ladies and gentlemen, ooh, welcome to the Total War Devin Devlog number 7-ish, or is it 6? That sort of number. So, back for some more gameplay from the world's greatest game, and just like in the previous month, I didn't actually do very much for various reasons, and next month I'll probably do even less. Well, let's save the ranting about that for later. Let's have a look at the exciting new features that it does have, if there are any. Let's try and find some. Can't remember where it was last time, of course, so we'll have to try and work it out as we go along. Now, one feature you'll notice straight away is it's on a different map to last time. I've got this new kind of test map going on, so it's just big and open, and it's going to help for testing big armies and see how they behave, and there's lots of space to move around with these little gaps in the side for stuff to route through. And there's the enemy army, slightly bigger than last time. Looks like it's going to try and stand up in front of me. So a lot of the stuff I did this month was on the AI to make it work better with more units and to attempt to optimize it a little bit. Put some optimization on the pathfinding so it takes less time to sort of chug through the turns, or there's plenty more still to do on that. And I need to optimize the AI's decision making as well, which is slightly more complicated, but I realize the way I've done it is like the slowest possible way, so I could achieve the same result with faster code if I actually tried. And maybe I will try at some point, but right now I'm more interested in just putting features in, because that's where the sort of learning experience is for me. So what have we got? The feature I've been working on this morning and haven't finished, so this doesn't work, is to do with this random picture here. I want to add in some sort of grouping system or formation system like in Total War. So I could do something like, I'm going to take these 4 of my formation and put them in a group. So this is in place of having a button to do that. You click on this picture and you see another thing appears there. So this formation group now exists, and this is the button you'll use to select it. So what I want to happen is make it so that if your units are in a particular arrangement on the screen and you put them in a formation group, if you order the group to move, they'll stay in that formation. So the easiest use of that will be to select your whole army, put it all in a group, and then just right click somewhere else on the map, and the army will move there and stay in the formation it's already in. So you sort of set up the formation you want at the start of the battle, and then you don't have to micro it so much. So that's the point of that. It doesn't really work as far as I remember. So there's supposed to be a thing that appears there to show that you selected it, but it doesn't. And for some reason, when I give orders for the formation to move, it's got these 8 things instead of 4. So I think it's like doubly putting units in, and it doesn't have the thing that actually moves it in formation yet. So the main feature isn't even in the code. So we're working on that, but we can do multiple groups. So if we decide we want to put the shitty slingers in their own group, we can press again up to a maximum of about 5, because that's how much space I've allowed for. And so yeah, now I can switch between the groups like that. You'll see on the unit cards down there, it's selecting the different sets of units that I've assigned to each group. So it's a little quick way of doing that. And if I click on, say I take my tie-dye group and click on the button again, that unassigns the groups. Now there's only one button, and that one button refers back to those slingers, so I sort of unformed that initial group. So we've got something basic working there. Need to sort it out and come up with an actual user interface going on there. In principle, that works. Now, another exciting development since last time is the addition of this button. And this button, which also needs an actual button, is currently, this is basically Unity's default shape, which you can use to assign code to. What it does is makes the end turn sequence just cycle continuously without you doing anything. So for a situation like this, where the enemy is going to be moving towards me, and maybe I can't be bothered to move towards them, what I can do, I'll be generous to the AI and just set up right in front of them to make sure the AI has as easy a time as possible. So now what I can do is slap the just go button, my men walk to there, and now it's just going to keep cycling through the turns. So you can see it's lagging each time a turn ends. That's the AI's decision-making process that I talked about, where it's thinking about what to do. Currently, it's thinking about whether it needs to change the position it's forming up its army. It doesn't, because nothing's changing, so what optimization is to make it look to see if it's worth even bothering checking to see if we should move its location, because the process of checking what the best attack direction on me is quite complicated. So let's move to there. It's finished forming up, it's going to begin an attack plan, it's moving all of its infantry to attack mine, it's moving its cavalry onto the flank, this looks good. It's got its own ranged infantry sort of back from the main line, so it can shoot at my units, but my ranged units can't shoot at it, so that's relatively clever. The cavalry have been coming in here, they're doing rear attacks. It's trying to take my general, but the general's stats are so high that the general just kills everything it comes into contact with. So basically the cavalry have been obliterated. Their flank attack also failed. I think it's just because these cav units have really low stats compared to everything, and they lose the battle, so flank attacks don't actually work, but anyway, that's a detailed issue for later. And now the battle's just continuing. The AI is trying to use its infantry to attack me, but their morale is kind of on the edge of sort of going in and out, of being under control and not being under control, and every time it routes it's trying to pull them back towards the general. So when a unit routes, it goes to the general by default, and only if it's still routing within the general's aura does it do this, where it'll try and just leave the battlefield, unless you don't have a general, in which case it just leaves right away. And so this fight is just going to continue. We've seen a couple of other possible features here. Let's have a look at, can I select a unit that's routing maybe? None of those guys. This guy he's dead. So there's a glitch that I found a few times. Sometimes the AI forgets about its broken units. So this unit's routed, but it's not escaping, so it's just leaving it to do nothing. Looks like none of them have it. Basically I added in a thing where units panic when they route, which means they can't come out of routing for like 1 or 2 turns, just to stop it from having an effect where you can imagine a unit that's engaged, it routes, moves 1 step away, now it doesn't, now because it's not near the enemy, its morale comes back, goes back into the fight, routes immediately, takes 1 step back, rallies, goes in, fights. You see what's happening there? You could get stuck in a cycle. So this panic thing means it has to run for a couple of turns before it can come back, and that just allows more things to change in the meantime. This unit looks like it's stuck in a cycle. See, it's routing when it gets near to me, coming away, rallied, routed, oh, rallied, he's coming back in. So there you go, it's actually doing the thing I talked about. He wants to rear attack this line, which is at least a clever idea, but he's just absolutely obliterating himself. Now he's given up. The general, he's off on his own adventure. This is something I've noticed the general can do. What the general's programmed to do at the moment is just a generic support the army AI. So it just kind of follows behind melee units and tries to keep their morale up. But sometimes it decides that the army is just itself, and it gets into this thing where it says, I'm going to follow behind myself, and just keeps moving away from the battle, which is what it's doing now. Also, I think this is actually a separate glitch, where sometimes it tries to move to this, like the bottom left-hand corner of the map, which we actually saw when I first started the AI. We saw the generals trying to move into that corner, and I still literally have no idea why it does that. Can't find anything where it like defaults the movement location to location 00 on the map or anything like that. No idea why it's doing it, and why only that unit ever has that problem. No idea, but one day we'll find out. I think it has actually, and it hasn't frozen. A lot of these units have frozen. This is another glitch which I've been witnessing over the last couple of weeks that I have no idea why. Sometimes, I think it's to do with movement points. Routing units can't move through forests if they're routing, and I don't understand that either. So yeah, basically what I wanted to do, or have been doing over the last week, the little that I did do, is trying to fix the myriad glitches that we're seeing once the battles get large and messy and you auto-turn on and things start processing really fast. You see the AI is just, it's got all these routing units. These guys aren't, they're out of ammo. So they're doing their job in that their AI hasn't been programmed to do anything when they're out of ammo. What I want to do is have things like baggage trains. So if a unit like this was out of ammo, it could go get some ammo, or failing that, it could be used as a melee unit, but I don't know if I want to program it to do that, because that's generally a bad idea. They could just withdraw. Something like that. So all these other stationary units, they've just given up on life. This unit's looks like it's still going, but it's not actually being given any orders. So it's only these 2 units fighting. Let's actually give some orders ourselves. We might be able to end the battle, because one other thing... Oh, this guy routed the second he moved forward. If we can end the battle, I can show you the other thing that was added in. Okay. Hopefully it's a fight we can lose. It's just loads of slingers and 1 tie-dye versus 1 tie-dye and 1 slinger. Let's just run at the enemy. If we run at them, it should get them to cancel their bothering to form up and not just attack us right away. Go, go, go. Auto-turn. Rush to your death, my brave warriors. Let's look at it in full screen. There we go. So let's have a look at what the enemy is doing out of curiosity. Oh, they're all inside each other for a second there. They're trying to get away from me. They want to send the tie-dye in first to fight, that's why. So in he comes, the ranged units. Oh, that's a nice cross formation they've made there. They're trying to get into a position where they can support this unit. Oh, they're moving up into range now. Nope, nope, too close. They're very scattish. They could win this. Just come in and win it by sheer attrition. You can do it. Oh, they want to get behind the ranged unit so they're not in danger of me coming off and attacking them in melee. Clever, but unnecessary. There we go. That's what happens. The battle now actually ends. So that's a new feature. So what we would do is have this exit battle take us back to a campaign screen of some kind. So that's the sort of exit point for this stage of the game. And I've got this basic screen here. It's pretty useless. It tells you the names of the armies. They're both called Test Army, and the casualties. And this grid is so redundant, because as you can see, the casualties inflicted by one army are going to be exactly the same as the ones sustained by the other army, unless there's lots of armies. So using some different metrics is probably a good idea here, but the concept's there. We've got a thing that comes up when the battle ends, and the button doesn't do anything. So the game just ends at that point. And that's about it. Oh, I didn't even show you that routing that I mentioned. No, this guy doesn't have it. Yeah, never mind. Basically, yeah, there's a new status effect called routing. It's very impressive, and there's lots more status effects that need to be added in. Also on the list of things to add in, let's have a look at it. Adding damage to charges. So that's a feature where when units contact, their first combat should be more deadly than the others to represent them charging into each other. Adding player formation buttons and movement, that's what I've been kind of doing, as I mentioned earlier, but we need to finish that off. Holding something to make units run automatically when given a movement order. So that'll be handy. Cavalry charging and engagement mechanics. So I want in Total War Devin cavalry to not work like infantry in the same way that you do in Total War. By that I mean, like, when you use a cavalry unit in Total War, you use it as a fast infantry unit, so you just run it into the enemy and then they stay static fighting in melee, and you can choose to move them out and in again, but you can do that with infantry too. I want cavalry to work differently, where cavalry attacks are more about inflicting a morale shock and causing the formations to move than actually impacting things, and if they do impact, it will cause big damage to the cavalry unit. So it'll be more like shock cavalry. All cavalry will be shock cavalry. It won't be used as a melee infantry equivalent unit, and hopefully that will make the gameplay a bit more dynamic, because you'll have a different way of engaging the enemy because of that. What else we got? Oh, adding lots of morale effects to add in, like army losses, that's one we really need, and the loss of the general, things like that. Oh, and a skirmish mode. That's something I really want to add in, because a few of you may know that I complain regularly about Total War skirmish mode, specifically because the units don't leave battle when they've been caught. There's this concept of being caught in melee, where if a unit that's been ordered to run away, one of the men in the unit makes physical contact with an enemy, the whole unit will now stop and will try to defeat that enemy in melee combat before continuing to run. And usually you've put your unit on skirmish mode specifically because it can't beat units in melee combat. So this decision to make it do that destroys me every time I see it. I'm like, why is it like that? That's so unhelpful. So all I want to do is make a skirmish mode that A, is quite good at actually dodging enemy units and staying away from them, and B, if that unit does get impacted by a hostile unit, it will break off the combat as soon as possible and move away, directly away from the unit that was engaging it, so that it doesn't get caught again. Because generally units that are skirmishing are fast and they can avoid combat, it's just that they don't try. So that's an extremely important feature for me. So I guess that's pretty much it. As I said, not much actually did over the last month, mainly because I've been starting this new series and I've just had less and less time. One thing I've noticed with the channel over the last year is that every time I start a series, I spend a bit more time on it per episode than I do the previous one. So like The Perfect Crime, which replaced Tinny of Truth, takes longer to make than a Tinny of Truth episode, and the new Fields of Mars series, each episode takes longer to make than the Sinews of War thing that came before it. So as a result, the amount of time I've got for programming has gone down and down. So this time last year I was probably spending a couple of hours a day doing programming, and now it's a couple of hours a week. So I've spent about three to 4 hours this week on programming. So, you know, it's just going down and down, and next month it's going to be even lower because I'm going to be doing some freelance work, and because I'll be away for some of the time, so I need to make extra videos to maintain the continuity of all the series. So what I think I'm going to do from here on is I'm not going to say I'm going to make another one of these at the end of next month, because there might be literally nothing in it. So what I'm going to do is make the next video when something interesting and worth actually talking about is in there, so it's just less of me rambling and not much happening and everything just glitching out, that sort of thing. So that's the objective. I'm not sure what the next major feature worth looking at will be. Perhaps a complete battle system once I've done all those things I said on the list and maybe made the AI a bit more, and of course done some serious debugging, trying to stop the freezes, random glitches, AI forgetting it has units, general running off into the corner of the map in fear, this sort of thing. Once I actually understand what's happening and control that, we'll have a complete battle system. Now maybe I could do a video where we show it off with some big armies, because this engine can support huge amounts of units, of course. It's only the AI's decision making that slows it down. So if I can sort that out, what we might be able to do is like 100 versus 100, like a huge formation down here, a huge allied formation up here. Click the button and just see what happens. See how the AI tries to attack me with a gigantic army with hundreds of units. Because in the campaign mode of the game, I want an army to theoretically have an unlimited number of possible units. It'll just be soft capped by upkeep cost and supply restrictions as to how many units you actually have in it. So you probably won't have more than like 30 or something, because it gets out of control. If there's that many, it's too hard to deal with. So you know, there's a reason behind Total War having a cap aside from performance. But I think it should be a soft cap rather than a hard cap, so you can exceed it if you want. I think that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. It was great. There will be more of this video one day in the future at an undetermined time, as I just mentioned. I hope you enjoy whatever music I put in the background. And yeah, that's the end. Goodbye.